Okay, good morning, everybody. How are we all doing today? It is Larsen Live on Sunday. Larsen Sundays. Not a usual thing, but things came up. It is December 28th, 2025, after Christmas, but before New Year's. We are, in fact, doing classic holiday mirth making. The Christmas that almost wasn't, but then was. It's Principal Skinner's favorite movie about a grinchy little character who almost steals Christmas. The Christmas Hobgoblins. Who then spends 2 hours serenading a shepherdess. Yes, Simpsons references abound. In fact, all my pop culture references are wildly out of date. As you can tell by my opening song, Prince's 1999, I want to do a song about the new year. Sorry. I'm also going back to something I used to do on this stream where I would shove, baked goods in my mouth shortly before I started talking to have some semblance of breakfast. But yes, Prince's 1999 is what we opened up with. I move away from the mic to breathe in. I mean, I was going to do some other songs, like there was some song called, well, it was also called 1999 by Sleepy Hollow or something, which is some, droning, monotonous mumble rap horseshit, and I wouldn't want to subject you to that. I also considered doing the song Millennium by everybody's favorite dancing chimp, Robbie Williams, but I decided against that because, well, that was really his only hit that he ever had in the United States, Millennium. They tried really hard to push him on MTV back in the day, but it was not to be. And this to say, his humanoid anthropomorphic chimp movie, A Better Man, didn't work out either. So, I decided on Prince, which is, again, my middle finger to the United Kingdom. As Super 70s Sports like to say on Twitter, America's first attempt at a prince was better than all of England's attempts. So, my pop culture references and my music tastes are widely out of date. And, in contrast, my news stories are only a week out of date at most. And, of course, by most news stories, let me rephrase that. Most of my news stories are slightly outdated, but one story came to me just this morning. I don't know how to put this, so I guess I'll just put it. So my former barber is a child diddler. Yeah, that's sorry to lay that out there, but I'm not gonna name names, but a couple of weeks ago, I went to my barber. I asked for the guy who usually cuts my hair. He does a very good job cutting my hair into the pompadour the way that I like. I was told that he is no longer there. I figured that he perhaps started his own barber shop. Turns out that he actually molested 2 children and had several thousand items of child pornography on his computer. So he is currently in prison where he belongs. I don't know what to say. And apparently you don't know what to say either, as my viewer count wildly goes up and down, but never going above 4. I mean, I suppose people have important things to do on Sunday. I'm sure you're all men of God and you go to church on Sunday. I say sarcastically because none of you are godly people. Yeah, neither's my barber. He, it's not great. I mean, just when you think you know somebody, he's a nonce. He's diddling the children. I genuinely had no idea. And, geez, in retrospect, I shouldn't have tipped him so highly. But, what can I say? The man did cut hair well. But, yeah, seriously, fuck him. I hope he's rotting in prison, where he belongs. Okay. This link which says Prince the Boy. Yes, Prince Rogers Nelson. Everybody's favorite tiny, tiny little basketball prodigy. I mean, he also played music, but obviously people just want to know about the basketball nowadays. The, of course, legendary story about Prince and 2 of his boys playing Eddie and Charlie Murphy and some other guy in basketball whilst wearing his ruffly shirt and high heels, and he just kicked his ass. That is, of course, the legendary story, which has been gone over many, many a time in interviews. Not by me. Yeah, so anyway, the point of the story is I had to get a new barber from the same place, but, different guys. I went to this one guy who just sucked. And then I went to another guy, a third guy, and he was pretty good, and hopefully he's not a child molester, so let's hope for the best on that. I mean, we got to protect the innocence of the children, of course, but, this pompadour has to, has to pomp as well. Anyway, so how is everybody's holiday season? Whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Ramadan, a tenacious Tet, or whatever. 1 second. Yes, whatever holiday you celebrate. In the words of Krusty the Clown, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Quasi Kwanzaa, a tenacious Tet, or a solemn, dignified Ramadan. Whatever you celebrate, I hope you had a happy one. Yes, gifts were given all around. I got some nice gifts myself, such as a very dapper smoking jacket, which I would have been wearing except for the fact that I had to go out and walk the dogs. In fact, give me 1 second. I'm going to put on my smoking jacket, because I look like an absolute boss wearing it. Yes, there we go. Now I look like the paterfamilias. Okay, I also got some nice fishing gear, which I'll definitely be using once the weather warms up. I don't have an ice fishing license. And some assorted other things, like new pair of sandals and, such. I don't buy plastic crap because I am ostensibly an adult. Yes, there were gifts also exchanged for the wife, and our friends, and good time was had by all. Okay. Biff Slankovich says, I need a Nicky barber. Yes, I presume that is a very excellent barber that you know of, sir. Of course, I have no idea who Mr. Slankovich is, but I'll take your word for it, sir. Anyway, barbers aside, and it would be nice if other people besides Mr. Slankovich talked. Let's get to the news. Just as they say, I had a very happy holiday season. I had myself a merry little Christmas, which you know who didn't? The good people of Paris, France, the city of lights. The party's over in Paris. They canceled a New Year's Eve concert on the Champs-Elysees as migrant violence grows. Yes, there were threats of violence from some, unspecified group of people, and yes, we can't have a nice, hone New Year's celebration. I mean, me and the wife are going to visit some friends for New Year's. Yeah, it's not quite the Champs-Elysees, but, it's pretty cool. But yeah, this is not good. This is, of course, not to be confused with the German Christmas market, where, some, indeterminate people from some other demographic group went around shitting on the street and punching donkeys in the face. So I guess they didn't want that to happen. So they just decide to cancel things in advance. Yeah, the Paris police, these gendarmes, pressed the mayor to scrap the concert. Yes, say what you will about the United States, the ball is still dropping in Times Square. So I guess that hasn't been canceled. I mean, of course, one could argue that much of America's daily life and economy revolves around placating the feral lower classes, but say what you will about our feral lower classes, they don't usually make bomb threats. They usually don't get much more advanced than shoving people in front of subway trains, so I guess that's good, I suppose. Shinseki Evans says, we lost Bridget Bardot. She warned them about the Islamic invasion decades ago and they arrested her for hate speech. Yes, I literally just saw that when I was reading that other story. So, as I said a few weeks ago, probably more like a month ago, France calls out for new leadership. You know, where is Napoleon? You know, he picked that crown out of the gutter and put it on his head, and the crown is in the gutter now. And it remains in that gutter. Yes, it's highly unfortunate. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. So I got some comments. No new comments, but there's 4. That's nice, I suppose. Speaking of, feral mongoloids ruining everything and making it so we can't have nice things, we're leaving France and coming to the good old United States of America. A mother in Oklahoma says she's unable to handle her 14-year-old son. Okay, we see a video. The facts, dude. The kid is a, dead-eyed, scowling ignoramus. He is throwing rocks and bricks at the car windshield. The mother has barricaded herself in the car. And, Brap Jr. is very angry about this. This is why my son is out of my home. He's had multiple episodes, and I have 3 younger kids. You can hear them screaming in this video. Department of Home Services took him out of the home after this. No child neglect, no abuse, just a child who needs help. Did you ever try kicking his ass? I'm sorry, but if I had a child and he was throwing rocks and terrorizing me, I would put that kid's face through the drywall. I'm just saying. Obviously, you should not ideally get to that point. You should, discipline him when he is a wee child and make sure that he can't, act this way. Maybe he's got a screw loose. But, I'm sorry, by the time you get to 14, 15 years old and you're attacking people with deadly weapons, which rocks and bricks are, it's time to start kicking ass. I know I'm not a father. I don't have children. I'm an uncle, but not a father. But, I am a teacher, and I have had to deal with these dead-eyed, hollow men in the past. And, I'm just saying, you should try kicking his ass. Anyway, it ends kind of happily. The kid met up with his cousin, and this dead-eyed mongoloid got a beat down. Now, I don't know whether the cousin was doing it out of a sense of justice or whether he is, in fact, an even worse brappy. But, some people kind of need it. I mean, I have had to deal with children of the same age and the same, hulking mongoloid disposition. And, boy, I really wanted to just start, furiously punching. Unfortunately, I was not allowed to do so, but boy, I really should have been. Shizig Evans says, let me guess, no dad? Yeah, I'm going to presume he did not have a father in the office. Biff Slankovich says, Nicky barbers are the ones with black and white TVs watching Italian soccer league. Yes, that's certainly a good thing. Give me 1 second. I have a text from the friend I'm celebrating New Year's with. There we go. Yes, barbers with black and white televisions in the window. Barbers who have, like, just got texted back. Just give me 1 second. Anyway, yes, barbers who have 50-year-old issues of Playboy are also good. See, a good barber engages in adult pornography, not child pornography. Pornography is a vice that is good in, reasonable limits if you're into that sort of thing, as long as it is with consenting adults. But I digress. Yes, this feral mongoloid did not, in fact, have a father. To borrow a phrase from the movie Red Dragon, as a child, my heart goes out to him, but as an adult, he's irredeemable. So I don't even know if my heart would go out to him as a child, because, well, what can I say? Some people are just born, feral, sociopathic, cretins. And, severe beatdowns are necessary. And speaking of feral mongoloids, Rob Reiner, a famous Hollywood director, was probably murdered by his son. Now, I don't know exactly what happened, but of course, Rob Reiner, I know we're usually go to the pop culture things, but this is technically a crime thing. Yes, Rob Reiner was unfortunately stabbed to death with his wife by his son. Drugs may have been involved. I don't know exactly. But, that's a shame. I mean, it's also a shame that Los Angeles basically neutered its, police force out of, claims of racism. But what can you do? Rob Reiner had a fantastic, 12-year run in the 70s and 80s. Kind of hit the skids in the 90s, but he's still pretty good. I have no, ill will towards him. May he rest in peace, him and his wife. But yeah, that's quite unfortunate. Let me see if I can look up. Let me see if I can look up more deets on that. Okay. Yes, his son Nick, stabbed him to death. Yeah, Trump was called out due to some issues. He, Rob Reiner is obviously very much a left-winger. Trump criticized him for his anti-Trump views. Yes, apparently most Americans view the post as inappropriate. I mean, you can disagree with somebody politically while, not somebody that they are dead. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm still not seeing why his son would have done it. But, it's not good. Okay. Shinseki Evans says, Meathead son, Meathead. Yeah, that's the few, bits and pieces of context I'm getting seem to indicate some kind of drug-related thing. Yes, that is quite unfortunate. Okay, he says Rob Reiner was the person involved with the deep state that tried to jail Trump. Well, I know that Rob Reiner is very much a liberal boomer who had Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know how entwined he is with the government. Come on, like Meathead's not with the government. Yes, it's unfortunate all around. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on here in the news. Leaving America and going slightly up north to Canada. Canada, you know how we always make those jokes about Canada's, healthcare, the euthanasia thing? Yeah, that's that's going great. The Canadian euthanasia crisis is now reached inside federal prisons. Of course, Canada likes to brag about how they don't have the death penalty, unlike us barbarous Americans. But, basically, the government is now euthanizing prisoners under the nation's state-sanctioned assisted suicide program. So, in other words, it's execution by another name. Since 2018, 15 federal prison inmates were euthanized under the Medical Assistance in Dying scheme over the past 7 years or so. The findings raising serious questions about coercion, oversight, and the rapid normalization inside government institutions. I've always agreed with Ned Stark from the first episode of Game of Thrones. If you're gonna, pass a sentence to execute somebody, you better swing the sword yourself. Obviously, it's not something you should do except in the most dire of circumstances. But, enough of this, pussyfooting, passing the buck euthanasia crap. Just get Jack, if you must execute somebody, just get Jack Ketch to just put a bullet in the guy's head. Yeah, so apparently 5% of Canadian deaths are now euthanasia. Yeah, boy, that no death penalty is going great. A serious question. Is there a country on Earth where healthcare is actually good? It's like that meme where there's the triangle of fast, good, cheap. Select who. America is fast and good, but it's expensive. Okay. Then you have, say, British healthcare, which is good and cheap, but very slow. Then in Canada, they just euthanize you. No, serious question. Where is healthcare good? I don't know. Hey, let's see. Shinseki Evans says, I bet Rob Reiner was one of those closed insane asylum Ken Kesey types in the 70s. Oh, God, yeah, that worked out great. I do blame Reagan for that, but really it wasn't him. It goes back, even to, the Kennedy administration. And, yeah, there were certainly problems with the insane asylums. And, I'm not to get too morbid here, but President Kennedy had very specific reasons why he would be against the state of mental health care in his time. You can look up what happened to his sister if you want to read something really depressing. But, yeah, closing the insane asylums and just hoping people take their lithium didn't help matters. All I'm going to say is there was one school shooting that ever happened in America before the 80s, and then for some inexplicable reason they just started going up a lot after that. "19th Century says hello there. Jordan Peterson's documentary on Canada was quite eye-opening, as have been Lauren Southern's videos. Yeah, not a huge fan of either guy or girl in that case, but, you know, sometimes the criticism is warranted. 19th century says President Reagan was one of the best leaders we in America ever had. I disagree, sir. But hey, you are entitled to your opinion. Okay, moving on from that. Let's see what else we have going on. Yeah, we got a lot of interesting things to talk about. To kind of go back to the feral brappy mongoloid attacking his parents, let's talk about the opposite thing. Let's talk about parents attacking their children. Not to be confused with my barber who attacked unrelated children. Yeah, you missed that whole story, those of you coming in late. Turns out my barber was a child molester. Which is a shame, because he was a very good barber, but, yeah, it's, not a good person. Okay, 19th century says, may I hear why you dislike Reagan? Well, I mean, like, just like, you know, cutting, like, social entitlement programs, which, you know, I do agree with to an extent, closing the insane asylums, kind of deregulating things, like deregulating businesses, basically just handing the country over to the corporations. And I know that wasn't entirely him. Like, there was other people involved there, too. Just, you know, just all that stuff. Shinseki Evans, you should do a video about Reagan. I probably should at some point. I'm just saying, like, you know, wealth inequality and, you know, like drug use and all that stuff kind of went up during the Reagan years. So, yeah, I'm not a particularly big fan. And, yeah, like, things were good during that time, like the pop culture and stuff. When I talked about this in my economics class at school, I said, you know, everybody was distracted in the 80s with the cocaine and the steroids and ninjas flying around and, you know, people waving around their magic power swords and getting the power of Grayskull. And, you know, that was all cool. But behind the scenes, not so much. Like, look, I love the pop culture of the time, too. But, you know, I'm just going to say that there was a time when America had the high standard of living in the world, and it's not that case anymore. Okay, so yes, moving on to child abuse. We're going to Spain now. In Spain, a 27-year-old Algerian woman has been arrested for attempting to blind her 2-year-old son by pouring irritating liquid into his eyes. She also has a 7-year-old daughter who is blind, presumably blinded on purpose. It is believed that she did this deliberately to receive more social benefits. Yeah, thought that was just something that happened in Slumdog Millionaire? No, that was that was real. Yeah, certain terrible people handicap their own children just to get free, you know, government gibs. I couldn't comprehend doing such a thing. Then again, I also couldn't comprehend having a child if you can't support it with your own money, which is why I don't have a kid yet. But that's a whole different issue. Yes, that is a very unfortunate story. Thankfully, the child is now in protective services. But yeah, that's apparently a thing people do. Okay, 19th century says he likes Reagan, watches jokes. Yes, I mean he was avuncular, certainly. I'm not taking that away from him. I just I don't know, I just kind of dislike how the man just seemed to have a genuine hatred for everything good and, nice in the world, despite his, jocularity. Well, yes, let's just drill into the national forests. That was his brainchild there. And yeah, let's fund Central American death squads. How wonderful. Okay. 19th century, as to Spain have an appreciable number of third world immigrants compared to Britain and France. I mean, maybe a little less, but apparently it's still a problem. Incidentally, I remember there was an episode of Conan O'Brien once where they brought on the animal experts, and they talked about how a mother kangaroo, when it has her little Joey in its pouch, she will literally shove her baby out of the pouch to distract the predator so she can get away. Because, hey, you're an animal, you can always support another baby. I don't know why I just thought of that with regards to, feral derelicts blinding their own children for more, government welfare, but it seemed to make sense. Okay. You have a couple more stories about useless eaters who just, mooch off the government. Okay, so going back to the United States, a Somalian immigrant has a message for Americans. And this is a direct quote. "Ha, you work all fucking day and you don't have shit. Thank you for working so hard so I can be home all day, free. I can use my EBT. Go to work for me, white man, white woman. Go to work for me, you fucking white animals. You work for me, the U.S. government works for me. Pay them taxes, take care of me and my people. This is my land, I control this place. You're all going to be in chains, I will lock you up." Boy, I want to just reach to the screen and just strangle this guy. Like, whatever political party has the balls to just make this a campaign ad, they're winning. Just put this on TV and, say, we're going to make this not happen. I guarantee you, whatever party does that is going to win for the next 100 years. Look, I'm not anti-immigrant. Like, my wife is an immigrant. Obviously there are many immigrants who work hard and they're good people and they contribute. This person's not one of them. Like, this shit needs to stop. I'm just saying, any society where, good, hardworking people work hard to fund, screaming derelicts, that society is going to have some massive doings transpiring pretty quick. Maybe we can solve it peacefully, maybe we can't. But, I've said this many times, but boy, I wish I had the power to just reach through computer screens and punch people in the face. I really do. Okay, comparable to Britain, France, or no? True. 19th century asked, where's my wife from? My wife is from South Africa, sir. Okay. Yes, as she likes to say, she came here as an au pair. She wanted to go back, and then I just kind of swept in and, worked my doodly magic and kind of ruined her plans in all the best ways. Okay. Personally speaking, going back to this Somalian gentleman in Minnesota. Oh, and fun fact, by the way, 81% of Somalians in Minnesota get gibs from the government, just FYI. Personally speaking, if I was, running blatant scams and sponging around, I would, keep that quiet and not brag about it. Like, for example, during the COVID pandemic, I did go on unemployment. So, yes, I took some gibs myself. Just personally speaking, I would not I would not air that out in public. I would keep quiet about the free money I was getting. But then again, I don't think this guy's particularly intelligent. Bislankovich says, Edward Scissorhands. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. It's not a bad movie. I mean, Ed Wood is always my favorite Johnny Depp, Tim Burton collaboration. But Edward Scissorhands is certainly good. Okay, let's see what else we have going on. Oh, speaking of, feral hollow men cretins leeching off my tax money. Okay, so there was another news story about, welfare and EVT. Okay. So says this woman, Hannah Moore. She says we and other SNAP recipients should be able to go to the grocery store and buy whatever they like. What's the point of food stamps if it's just for real food? In other words, why should we not be allowed to just buy junk food and crap? This woman says with hoop earrings you could slide a goddamn 2-liter bottle of Pepsi through. Again, I have a furious desire to just jump through the computer screen and just start punching people. Yeah, Super Larsen 64, just jump through screens and just start punching. I don't see why, government bennies shouldn't be, limited to, like, actual healthy food. I mean, it might help the obesity problem, certainly. And while we're at it, we can stop that agricultural adjustment crap where we pay farmers to destroy the food, and we can instead store the food in nutritionally dense but admittedly somewhat bland tasting preserves and just give it to the poor. They get their calories. They don't eat Doritos and Pepsi and Takis, and maybe they could get a job if they want to eat the food that they want. Shinseki Evans says you can buy junk food on EBT. Yes, that's what I'm saying. The woman in question, Ms. Moore, I'm going to presume she's not married. Because, people were talking about a proposal where you could, limit food stamps and SNAP to just, healthy food and, actual food. And she said, what would be the point if you can only buy real food? I don't see what's wrong with, the old system where they would just give surplus. Yeah, this is the American economy. It's just feral mongoloids getting food stamps, committing massive fraud, buying stupid crap, putting money back into the economy. It's just an endless cycle. It's the Dane Geld economy. And people wonder why I'm a bit testy all the time. Gee, Larsen, I don't understand. Why do you seem so angry all the time? Yeah, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. Okay, moving on from that. Let's see, we have, what else do we have here? This is about the time where I start opening up all the tabs so I can kind of, because usually I usually send one email where I have all my, bullet points and stuff. But occasionally I'll just open up a bunch of different things. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, oddly enough, I didn't intend to speak about Somalians again. But in Boston, which is where my extended family lives around. Not originally, we are native New Jerseyans, but they moved up to Boston. Mayor Wu of Boston sends a strong message to Trump and praises the Somalian community. You cannot talk about any achievement the city of Boston has ever had without mentioning Somalians. Really? Really? Boston achieved nothing without the good people of Somalia. Yes, those famous Somalians like Nathaniel Hawthorne and Samuel Barber and Charles Ives and H.P. Lovecraft and Edgar Allan Poe and Winslow Homer and William Sidney. Wait, no, William Sidney Mann was from upstate New York. Yeah, they were all Somalians. Yep. Yeah, there's it's just all those Somalians at Bunker Hill and Lexington and Concord. Yep, and Robert Gould Shaw leading the 54th Infantry he was Somalian. Yeah, and Robert Frost was Somalian. And Frederick Olmsted was Somalian. And Harvey Cushing, the man who literally invented brain surgery, he was Somalian. And like the Forbes families, the Somalians. I'm sorry, there's a lot of places in the United States which are basically just glorified strip malls. New England is not one of them. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm a proud, New Jersey boy. The only history America really has is, in the original 13 colonies, history and culture, I should say. Yeah, deal with it. I have a meme, which I'm going to put in my meme reel at some point. Silence territory. The 13 colonies are talking. I mean, it's basically true, but just kidding. I like all the 50 states. But, yeah, I don't understand how you could say something that stupid. Okay. Okay, let's see. 19th century says... Oh, I'm sorry. Shinseki Evans says you can buy soda pop, but not medicine. 19th century says, I've seen anger people. People get angry for less reason. LOL. Yes. Shinseki Evans says, Mayor Wu is a CCP plant. I wouldn't be surprised. 19th century says, in this case, his countrymen will need what he invented. Brain surgery, I mean. If you want to be technical, there was brain surgery going back before him, but Harvey Cushing, who was very much a, Boston wasp, he is a pioneer of the modern science of brain surgery. Discovered Cushing's disease. He was the first dedicated neurosurgeon. And so on and so forth. Okay, so, yes, he was not literally the first person to drill a hole in somebody's skull and, fool around in there, but he did develop many of the basic surgical techniques for modern brain surgery. So he's a very important person. He was not Somalian, so I rebuke what you're saying, Mayor Wu. 19th century says, tell that to a Texan, LOL. Yeah, I know, I was just kidding. I don't actually think so disparagingly of places outside the 13 colonies. But yeah, you remember when those Somalians threw the crates of cot into the harbor, right? Yep, that happened. To quote another famous Bostonian, I think this whole affair reeks of a savage servility sliding by on a layer of grease, as Robert Lowell would put it. And I'm digging deep for that reference. Anyway, let's see what else we got going on. Oh yeah, I had another story about Canadian euthanasia. An elderly dementia patient was killed without consent. Her family consented for her. Bang up job, Canada. And bear in mind that I'm actually a person who feels like not enough people are dying, or not enough people are being killed, but, not elderly dementia patients. I mean, like, screaming derelicts who, shit on the street and rape women. Like, that's who needs to die, not some old lady who's being euthanized against her will. Yeah, bang up job, Canada. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. Hey, we have a few got a few more political stories to talk about. And then we're going to get to the pop culture thing. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to go we're going to leave America or Canada, and we're going to come back to Europe, or is it Asia? It's Eurasia. In fact, we're going to the midpoint between Europe and Asia, Russia. Okay, so Vladimir Putin, in his infinite wisdom, has a visa-free deal with the Chinese government. Basically, Russia's kind of hitting the skids, so many people are going to China for work. In particular, there was a mass exodus of young ladies going to China. Chinese men are going on social media bragging about how they bagged themselves a little Diev. In fact, they're bragging how Russian women will accept harsh treatment and work for them. Russian men are becoming furious at this. You don't say. Yes, there's also Chinese men going to Siberia in particular, just hanging out in Vladivostok. They are appreciated as partners, apparently. So says one commenter. Unlike Russian men, they don't drink, they don't beat their wives, and they bring home a paycheck on Fridays. This is the same thing the Chinese are actually doing in Africa. They're becoming construction managers and, bossing around the locals and bagging the women. Is this the future of Russia, supplying energy and young ladies to China? I mean, to be fair, Asians get that Asian flush where they can't really metabolize alcohol well, so I guess there's somewhat less of a chance that your new Chinese husband's going to put on a tracksuit and start punching you in the face. No, I'm sorry, that's rude of me to say. Okay, looking at some comments here. 19th Century says, I see, are those people, referring to me saying that, screaming derelicts should be killed. No, they're not people. That's the problem here. Anyway, yeah. So, I guess this is, I do find this kind of amusing. Because, well, frankly, a lot of very, very stupid people on the internet, the Groypers and neo-Nazis, seem to be under the impression that Vladimir Putin is some great defender of the white race and he's defending Europe from, the brown hordes. Yeah, apparently that's not the case because he's just handing over women to the Chinese. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what Putin was thinking, but his plans are not good. Okay, so in breaking news just now, A helicopter in Hamilton, New Jersey has lost control and crashed. I mean, Hamilton's kind of a crap hole, so, nothing of value was lost, but... Sorry, just kidding. I mean, not that Hamilton is a crap hole, because it is, but obviously it's not good that a helicopter crashed and presumably somebody was hurt. Okay. But yeah, China has a massive gender imbalance due to that whole one-child policy and female infanticide, which went on back in the day. So there are quite a few young men who don't really have much in the way of prospects for, relationships in China. So seems like a win-win to me. I mean, I feel like Russia has always had sort of a gender imbalance towards women. So, seems to be it'll work out. I mean, I do find this... I'm not going to lie. As an Asian myself, I do find this a bit amusing that, there's many videos of, white cretins going to Thailand or the Philippines and bragging about how they're the dick king of Asia. So, yeah, I'm not going to lie. There's a part of me which likes to see Chinese men getting in on it. Whether it be in Africa or Russia. I've told you all before about my one experience dating a Russian woman where, on the second date, oh, by the way, Larsen, I'm 7 years older than I told you I was, and I have a son. Now let's go to buttfuck upstate New York and farm chickens. Yeah, there was no third date, I can assure you of that. There was no third date, Olga. But anyway, yeah, so I hope it works well. Hope it works well for these Russian dievs and their Chinese husbands. I mean, I feel like there's already been, like, a fair amount of mixing. I mean, it's almost as if China's right next to Russia. And, a lot of people were worried that China with an excess of young men might go to war, do something stupid, but hey, if you can ship them a bunch of, desperate Russian women, I guess everybody wins. Okay. 19th century says, what part of Asia? Well, I live in the United States, sir, but my mother is of Chinese ethnicity. Okay, 19th century says, Putin is not a defender of white people or Christianity. It's a load of rubbish. Groypers are idiots. Yes, they sure are. Bish Lankovich says, what do you think of that letter Epstein wrote to Larry Nassar? Well, I mean, it's a letter from one pedophile to another, so I imagine it's not very good. Bish Lankovich says, Mayor Wu is the greatest mayor. Doesn't sound like it, sir. Okay, also trending on Twitter, Corum. Apparently there is a football player, Blake Corum. It is not Michael Moorcock's Corum, who's one of the incarnations of the Eternal Champion. Although he might be, I don't know. Having finished reading the original 6 books of the Elric saga not too long ago, I appreciate that I read it, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think Michael Moorcock's a particularly great writer. His ideas are fantastic, but, he literally invented the multiverse. But, yeah, I just don't think his prose is particularly great. And it frankly annoys me when people say that about Lovecraft when he's a much better prose stylist than Moorcock. But that's enough literary criticism for now. Okay, let's see. So, yeah, anyway, let's go to the pop culture side of things. Yeah, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary names the new 2025 word of the year is slop. Slop is low-quality digital content churned out in bulk by artificial intelligence. Once a term for muddy slush or pig food, now captures frustration with the internet's flood of robotic output. Yes, I agree. Slop is terrible. And frankly, we're going to see a lot more slop to mean, poorly made crap content as the years go on, because AI is not slowing down. We're going to talk about slop in just a little bit. Technically human-made slop, but slop nonetheless. Yeah, we'll get to that. So yes, let's all slop drop, as they say. I mean, I get annoyed by fantasy slop myself, and all kinds of slop. But, yes. So I got some comments here. No new comments. Wonderful. So yes, if we must have a new word of the year, I think slop is good. Yes, there is a lot of slop. And boy, I really love how, we were promised that AI would do our work for us so we could dedicate our time to, creating content and living our best life, man. But, in fact, it's the other way around. We have AI to make artwork for us so we can, in fact, do more work. Oh, and by the way, one person died in that helicopter thing in Hamilton, and one person's in critical condition. Also, there's apparently an airport in Hamilton, New Jersey. I'm going to presume it's basically a field with, like, a lifeguard tower in it. I don't know why I'm shitting on Hamilton so much. I only drove through there once. Okay, 19th century says rest in peace. Yes. Okay, so going on to pop culture criticism and going away from the groypers, but going on to a slightly, very slightly more intelligent right-wing crackpot, Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro analyzed the classic Christmas film, It's a Wonderful Life. Ben Shapiro was under the impression that Mr. Potter, the villain, was actually the hero. Why? Because he made a lot of money, of course. He put money into the economy. The line went up. And that's the only thing that matters in life. Yeah, never mind the fact that, Mr. Potter literally was going to kill a man for $8,000. I mean, he was the hero. Yes, I know he wasn't actually killing Mr. Bailey. He was just sort of letting him die for $8,000. But the point, he's not a good person. No, you shouldn't have given that loan. He was the hero. Mr. Potter was the hero. Oh, by the way, speaking of Reagan, 19th century guy, the bank in It's a Wonderful Life was a savings and loan. A bank designed to give, stable loans for people to, buy houses and stuff. Yeah, Reagan deregulated those, so they committed massive amounts of fraud in the 80s. That's, but, never mind that. I'm sure Ben Shapiro likes that, too. Oh, my God. Ben. Okay, Ben Shapiro's Jewish. I just want to stress right now that I have nothing against Jewish people. But, Ben, dude, are you trying to just embody every negative stereotype of your people? Like, are you trying to just... Are you trying to make people anti-Semitic, sir? It's like, oh, like the banker who sacrifices people's lives for money. He's the hero if you think about it. Because the only thing that matters is making money. Fun fact, Karl Marx, who was incredibly anti-Semitic, literally said, the god of the Jews is huckstering. Well, apparently he's the god of at least one Jew out there, Ben Shapiro. Once again, I wish I could just reach through the camera and punch Ben Shapiro in the face as he sits in his little, like, Toys R Us toy couch, trying to look like a big boy. I mean, I don't like the Groypers. Ben Shapiro, to me, represents the old school, like, Republican, ideology, which is only slightly less repugnant to me. Line go up, worship business at all costs, and then send other people to die in wars because, I'm too delicate to join the army. Ben Shapiro, of course, being a guy who furiously advocated for the Iraq War when he started writing at the age of 19, when he was well of the age to, go fight himself. He didn't. Fuck Ben Shapiro. I would have thought that the villain who, again, condemns a man to die for a few $1,000s was the bad guy, and everybody got that, but, apparently not. Apparently that was too complicated for Benny. Speaking of It's a Wonderful Life, the first episode William Shatner ever hosted back in 86, they did a skit. It was like, the lost ending to It's a Wonderful Life, where they figure out that, okay, I mean, I'm going to spoil this almost 100-year-old movie for those of you who haven't seen it. The day is resolved with the town, being charitable and good, but, of course, many people complain that Mr. Potter gets away with it. He never gets caught, even though the problem is otherwise solved. In the original movie, they were supposed to have a scene where he dies of a heart attack, but it was cut out. It was a little too grim for the 1940s. Anyway, what I was getting at is the William Shatner SNL episode had a skit. It was like the lost ending, where the town figures out that Mr. Potter stole the money, and they form an angry mob, and they like storm his house, beat him to death, and then light his house on fire. And like, believe me, you watch that episode, like the crowd just erupts into cheers when that happens. And that was 40 years after the movie came out, and people were still mad about it. So, I think the intent of Mr. Capra was quite clear. And, William Shatner, like Ben Shapiro, is Jewish, but unlike Ben Shapiro, William Shatner is not a money-sucking ghoul. And he actually, has some basic human empathy and decency. Okay, 19th Century says, haha, I prefer him to Tucker. I mean, it's a lateral move there. Merry Christmas, Harry. Happy Hanukkah, Marv. Yes, another Christmas classic, Home Alone. And I'm just saying, like me, I've dedicated much of my life to kind of destroying and overcoming the, Asian dweeb stereotype. But apparently some people just like to live up to their stereotypes, like Ben Shapiro. I personally don't understand why anybody would just embody all their negative stereotypes. But, whatever. Oh, and by the way, leaving Ben Shapiro, but still going on to, vaguely Semitic media histrionics. Apparently, some dingus was under the impression that How the Grinch Stole Christmas is also a negative depiction of Jews. You are in keeping with the medieval tradition of viewing the Jew as an outcast and a baleful force in society. What the actual shit? Like how do you... Jeez. I can't even speak. I'm just so flabbergasted by how stupid this concept is. Like, yes, those, I mean, I understand that sometimes, like, characters are coded as, you know, they're coded as, like, you know, minorities or whatever, but, I'm sorry, like, who, what? Yeah, those Jews are hairy green monsters who live in caves. Like, what the shit, man? And fun fact, there is literally a Jewish comedian, I don't remember his name, where he's like imploring his people, can we please, for the love of God, stop seeing little creatures in movies and screaming about how they're Jews? Like, can we please stop doing this? Let me look up who that person is. Jeremy Kaplowitz. Yeah, he actually did a whole like bit on this. He was like, you know, at some point as Jews, we got to ask ourselves, like, are we kind of just being hysterical here? Yeah, I think you are, sir. Well, not him. I mean, he's much more sensible about this, but yeah, apparently it's a thing. Like, I remember last year there was like some other histrionic Jewish writer, and again, I don't mean to impugn all Jews this way. Just, you know, I'm making fun of this particular writer. He was like, you know, Warhammer 40,000, like the Tyranids are Jews. The Tyranids are like giant space locusts who like eat people. Like, even the most anti-Semitic person doesn't think that's the case. I'm sorry, I don't... I do not understand how this works. Like, okay. I mean, I criticize the Groypers a lot, but like, some people are just equally stupid, just in the other direction. Boy, everybody's not talking about this. Okay. And finally, speaking of slop and just nonsense, and you know, this is an ongoing story in the Disney's totally creatively bankrupt saga. A live-action Gaston movie is in the works at Disney. Dave Callahan from Across the Spider-Verse is writing the script. Boy, we're just digging deep, aren't we? I didn't watch those cartoon Spider-Men, assorted spider people. So some people say it might be good because Dave Callahan, was a good writer. I don't know. I mean, we did joke about how Disney was making, like, you know, the Maleficent movie and the Cruella de Vil movie. And it was literally the joke, like, boy, they're never going to make a movie about one of the male villains because, you know, only women could be, you know, misunderstood, you know, anti-heroes. But, well, I guess that's not happening. I mean, are we in fact marketing towards the incel community? Seems like it. So yeah, that does it for my prepared remarks. Okay, 19th century says the vomiting emoji was because he referenced Karl Marx. Biss Lankovich says Mr. Potter was a dick like Trump in his ring. Stephen Miller is also Jewish. Yes. Again, I don't mean to impugn anybody's ethnicity, but Ben Shapiro apparently just woke up in the morning and decided to just embody every negative stereotype of his people. 19th century says Gaston may have been many bad things. He was hardly an incel. Well, I know, but I mean, like they're going to market it to the incel community. And I'm just going to call it now. I'm going to imagine in this movie, Gaston is going to be essentially portrayed as like an 18th century Andrew Tate, and he's going to have a bunch of sexless losers are going to watch the movie and root for him, and I assume that's what they're going to do. So yes, that does it for my prepared remarks. You can say your last pieces now, should you desire. 19th century asks how. Well, I mean, the character is a swaggering, hyper-masculine chud, so I don't see how he's not going to be like a 19th century manosphere guy. 17th, 18th. Boy, I'm just throwing centuries around. Shinseki Evans says, did you hear that Conan O'Brien is tangentially involved in the Reiner murders? I did not. Please explain, sir. Okay, Shinseki Evans says Nick Reiner threw a brap tantrum at Conan's Christmas party. I see. Okay, people are going to call the cops. Conan demanded no cops would be called. Then the Reiners were killed that night. Boy, that's, yeah, that is not your finest hour, Conan O'Brien. Yeah, look, I know they're your friends, Conan, but, when a kid's throwing a brap tantrum, you gotta get his ass in prison. If pulling out a baseball bat is not an option, which I suppose it wouldn't be. Yeah, so on that note, on the note of Conan O'Brien's, like, massive, gross negligence, yeah, that's going to do it for my prepared remarks. You can say your last pieces now. I'll give you a minute, then I got to get out of here. Okay, people also blame Bill Hader because he told Nick to fuck off at the party for annoying him. I don't see how that's his responsibility. Okay, so for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen